uniforms folded, flag hangs on the wall. Traded steel and thunder for silence in the hall. The mission's over, the deployment's done, they said, but the war inside my head, it hasn't left its stain. Got the handshake, the thank you, the ticket back home. Now I'm standing on the sidewalk, feeling utterly alone. This freedom is a cage that I can't seem to break. Every single morning it's a future I might forsake. Lost the rhythm, lost the drive, the structure disappeared. The invisible wounds are the ones that are truly feared. I'm walking on a wire, the pressure's coming down. Is there anyone listening in this lonely town? Full speed ahead after battle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week's episode of Full Speed Ahead here on the Military Broadcast Radio Network, where we give voice to the veterans. We have a special episode tonight. We have a special episode every week, let's face it. But tonight, we have several guests from the American Sons documentary film. We've been posting this in our Texas VFW Suicide Awareness Facebook group the last few weeks. I've been working with one of the producers, Oliver, on this. They're going live in January on PBS, so we're giving a upfront virtual screening to all the veterans and members in that Facebook group. And then tonight we're doing a live Q&A. But before we get into that, I want to remind all of y'all here on MBR, make sure you like, share, subscribe. That way you get the message out, not just about Full Speed Ahead, but all the different veteran shows that we have here on MBR. All right. So like I said, every week we talk about the statistics, and I'm just going to put this out there just like I always do. But on average, 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Right now, that has fluctuated over the years, but when you start factoring in law enforcement, which we've had here on this show, and civilians, that number climbs closer to 30 people a day committing suicide on average. Now, that means within the time frame of this 1 hour show, it's very likely that one veteran will commit suicide watching this. And that's why we do Full Speed Ahead. That's why MBR is here, to help put these messages out there, to help our viewers get to those veterans in time, right? To give them a place to come to ask for help, to give them the knowledge, the professionals that we have on the show, to be able to bring those veterans together. Because like we talk about on the show every week, that transition is one of the most important things in a veteran's life. That transition from military to the service is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, factor in veteran suicide. And if you watch the American Sons documentary, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So we've got about an hour show. We might go a little longer because we're going to have some great discussion on this. We've got the director, we've got the producer, we've got one of the Marines from the show. So we're going to go ahead. Before I introduce them, I am going to show you the trailer for American Sons. Now, if you want to watch the whole thing, today is the last thing, but maybe we can work something out, or you have to wait till PBS. You can watch a full editor's cut on Texas VFW Facebook page. So make sure you get on there and check it out. But let's check out this trailer real quick before we invite the guys on.
Yesterday, one of my boys stepped on an ID. He became a triple amputee, lost his legs and his left hand.
Everybody's potential enemy, you know? You can't trust nothing. Any step you take could be your last step.
You step off this path, most likely you might step on a landmine. Magnetic strip.
That's all magnetic strip. And I'm like, dude, back up. Because if I set this off, if there's something there, I don't want both of us to die.
When he left, I told him, you better make sure you get a lot of pictures.
Hey, who has a bigger head? Me or that? Okay, why are you zooming in? Whatever, boy.
It was crazy to know that you could be that close to someone at that early in stage, and it's someone from a different background.
Say west side, go like this. Cross, fingers. West side.
We all looked out for each other. We had like a actual love for each other. It's not just some dude, you know, you go out to field ops and then go to war with kind of did. Like, you know, your brothers.
Fucking love you, man.
I love you too, man.
When you come back from that deployment and everybody parts ways within 30 days, 30 days is not a healing process.
Every boom shot coming to me, it take me back, man. I don't know how to get away from it.
Then I get that knock on the door. And you just go numb.
I see Rios climbing out of the crater of the IED attack.
I miss everybody.
Yeah, me too, man.
All of them are my sons now, which they all call me mom. I know they're a part of JB. They always will be.
We counted on each other from some of the most hellish places on earth and made it out of there alive. What we need now is an opportunity to heal together.
All right, let's go ahead and bring all of our guests on. I've got the guy I've been working with, Oliver, producer. I've got your director here, Andrew, and of course, one of the Marines from the documentary, Billy Branch. Gentlemen, welcome to Full Speed Ahead. How are y'all doing?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having the show on the show.
Yeah, doing great, Josh. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Josh.
Yeah, thank y'all. So, you know, I first saw this documentary when y'all did the premiere in Fort Worth for the awards that y'all were trying to go for. And I would like to say this is probably one of the most impactful shows that have been done that shows real life after service, you know, veterans, what they truly struggle with and deal with after service. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, y'all got a standing ovation, and so much has come from this. So, you know, thank y'all for putting this together and showing this to everybody and really bringing this story out. So I'm going to start that off with whoever wants to go first. And it's the question that's always asked, right? It's why American Sons? Why, when there's so many stories just like this one, why was this one the one to put out into a documentary?
Yeah, Josh. So this story kind of manifested itself, and it came through a young Marine named J.D. Villarreal, who Billy served with. And obviously he was filming himself while he was in Afghanistan. And he took it upon himself to grab a camera and just start documenting his life as he entered the war zone. And unfortunately, he didn't come back. So the footage came home through his sister to his to our producer, Lada Varela, who's not with us today. And 10 years later, we joined forces and we started following his family and his closest Marine brothers to see how combat has affected them and how their community is dealing after this situation. And that's how we just started to develop the story. JV was the first filmmaker. And so just his act of courage, just making that decision to film, the footage that he got, and then us just kind of wanting to learn more about him. We followed his friends like Billy, who's with us, and some of the other guys who are in the film, his family, and just allowed them to express, you know, what they're going through. And that's where the story just began to evolve, because we understood how much deeper this, the thread of this narrative went. You know, we started to understand these real issues that veterans are going through, the challenges with PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, you know, being separated, lost in isolation, over medication. And we just allowed them to speak their truth and filmed it, got as intimate as we could. And then in documentary, the story develops in the editing room. So we just began to piece it together once we had shot everything. And, you know, that's where we just get this tremendous story that I have to have so much respect and appreciation for JV for starting this off, and really for Marines like Billy Branch and JV's family for just being vulnerable and able to open up and share the realities so that we can then show that to the rest of the world and people can understand what's really going on behind the scenes. When you see a veteran, you say, thank you for your service. We really wanted to show, what you're truly thanking them for, because, the fight doesn't just happen in Afghanistan. It's, as you know, it's still going on, here in the States.
Right. Absolutely. So for those, it is a Q&A today, and I do have some questions that were submitted ahead of time. But before we get into that, just for the viewers that are tuning in or maybe watching this later that didn't get to watch the documentary, you mentioned several times this is about JV that started filming while he was over there, like so many veterans do. But JV wasn't able to make it back, right? Like so many veterans. Billy, can you maybe explain for the viewers out there kind of what happened? I know it explains it a little bit in the documentary, but what happened to JV over there?
Well, we're doing, he was conducting a patrol, like we was doing every day kind of deal. And they were crossing a wadi, and stepped on an IED.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's happened to so many people over there. It's that was tough. So, all right. So we've got some questions that have been submitted ahead of time, and if the viewers are tuning in, feel free to comment below. You're welcome to submit your questions for the producers, for Billy, for the director, whatever you have about the documentary. But one of the questions that came in was, have any veterans responded to the film in a way that surprised you? And this is open to anybody.
Yeah, so there's a lot of raw moments in the film, Josh, as you've seen. And so really, first and foremost, our concern is for our participants. Billy, April, Yolanda, Angel, all the people who went through this process with us and allowed us to film their lives. And so we just were really considerate about how they were represented. And that was just our biggest concern, whether they were going to be okay with what the final product, because we shot like hundreds of hours of film. And then we boiled that down to 1 hour. And you have to make some strong decisions on what goes in there, because you're trying to tell a story at the end of the day. A million stories can be told from all this footage, but we're trying to tell a story that resonates, that can connect, is relevant, is timely. And, fortunately, when we put it out, we showed it to them in a small group, a small setting, and really great feedback. And so then that gave us a green light to go and show it to others. And we had several screenings this year all over the country. And really what surprised me is the details in the film that the viewers, the audiences, the veterans, the things that stuck out to them. Obviously, when you see the medication and you see when some vets are just kind of on the end of the spectrum, that's shocking for pretty much all veterans. But then you start talking to them one-on-one and you start hearing these little details that everybody picks up on. And it runs the gamut from the first scene, the numbers that tick, all the way to the end. JV, you just start to hear so many things. And I guess the surprising thing for me is when you hear how a specific scene touched somebody just so personally, and you think, wow, we're really doing something that matters, something that's impactful, because we're so stuck creating the thing, you don't really know the type of impact that you're going to make. And so you see that every little decision you made really mattered to someone who watched it. And so when you just talk with them afterwards and they share these things with you and they begin to open up, open their hearts to you and start telling you about their story, that's surprising to me, because I really didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And going, you make the thing, we've been making the thing for 7 years, and then you're just so inside of that, and then you arise, you go out there in the community, and it's just every time you hear something that is just really surprising. And I'll just end with this. the first thing that really struck me that I felt like we're doing a higher, like the work of a higher power, I guess, is that I have a close friend whose husband is he's a veteran. He's an Air Force veteran, and they have some challenges behind the scenes that I, pick up on and that I've heard about. And I know that when they left our screening, I heard that they talked in the car on the way home for the first time in a way that they never have before. And that was very surprising to me because these folks are so close to me, and knowing that I could create something that they would walk away changing their life in the moment. I know that that's not just happening for them, that must be happening for others too. So that was very surprising.
Yeah. So let me ask a follow-up one on this, because there was a question in the audience that night that somebody asked, and I could feel like Billy was holding back from the way he really wanted to answer. And this was an officer recruiter, and she asked, do you think that a film like this is going to stop people from joining the military? And Billy, the look on your face, it was like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Because this is half the life of a veteran. Yes, the first half is they serve, but the second half of their life is coming out and dealing with this that nobody tells them before about, right? So what is your real response to her on that question?
Wow. I just kind of felt that was kind of a crazy question, seeing how like the movie was very heartfelt, and it's like that's where her mind went to, like, recruiting kind of deal. It's kind of like this is about like veterans and recovery and people who have gone through it. It's kind of like worrying about numbers and coming into things. I'm like, man, that's, I think, besides the point. But like I said then, it was kind of like Full Metal Jacket was supposed to be what you call it, an anti-recruiting movie, and that one kind of, most Marines is kind of like Full Metal Jacket, that's what they, So for me, if anything, it's a plus. You can see like the camaraderie, like there's love, like real love, most love that people have never, experienced in their lives, kind of deal. To actually have somebody who, die and someone who killed for you, kind of deal. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, and it's not just your brothers and your sisters that you build that connection with when you come back, but like for you and the rest of the guys in your group, you're almost family with the Villarreals now, right? With his whole family, so y'all still get together with them even though he's gone. So it's not just the guys you serve with, it's their families that you build those connections with too. And really, it's about those support systems, right? That's what's going to keep a veteran going after service, is that support system. Because if he's just trying to do it on his own, it's not going to happen, right? I mean, there's so many things that he struggles with, and it's all about the support system. So, all right, let's go on to the next. Yeah, go ahead, Billy.
Oh no, I feel like that's really important. Like a lot of people with like the Gold Star families, is not to forget them. It's kind of like and for your friend, it's kind of like showing the most way of appreciation is like looking out for their family, looking out for their mom, kind of deal. Because for us, we lost a piece of us, but to his mom, she lost the whole world. It's like a really big deal. So it's to be there, an awareness to be there for your Gold Star families,
Right.
Because they suffer a lot.
Yeah, they struggle with everything as well. So it's the same thing with suicide. Even though that one veteran takes his own life, it still affects his entire family, his friends, his support system. So it's not just about that one person. There's truly a lot of people, just like this film shows, that are affected in these types of situations. So, all right, next question we have coming in is, what surprised you most once filming began that you could not have possibly planned for?
Oh, every moment of filming. Yeah. So trying to think of what the quote is, but it's something like, in narratives, the director is God, right? That's like a feature film that you write, you script. So in narratives, the director is God. In documentaries, God is the director. So what that means is you're just there to channel what you're experiencing, and one of the things that I made sure of, I actually put a piece of tape on the camera that just said press record, because so many times you can be in the moment having to worry about so many things, and you forget to press record, and an amazing thing happens, and you miss the whole thing. So for me, number one was just press record, because something was going to happen, and if I just rolled long enough, we were going to have an experience. And a lot of that was just getting to know these guys. So there's a key moment, and I'll just kind of use this as an example. There's a key moment in the middle of the film, or right before the midpoint of the film, where these two veterans are hugging in the street. They haven't seen each other in 9 years, and they embrace, and one of them just gets emotional, begins crying, and starts to express essentially everything he's been through in the last 9 years in one conversation. And that was the very first time we'd press record on the camera for the whole film. So it was just like, show up, we pulled together like a mini reunion just to really get to know these guys for the first time. We went to California and we met one young man, Ty, and great guy, really sweet soul. Loved him immediately. He got there early enough where it was just him. We put a mic on him and got out in the street with the camera, hit record when the other, his sergeant showed up. And that's what happened. That's what manifested. It was very emotional for all of us. You know, everything is always very emotional for all of us. And knowing that that's what experienced the first time, that's how you know there's something special happening. You know that what you're doing, there's much more depth to it. And it's your job to just find out what's behind that, because it's all a new experience, Josh. Like, it just, you know, I didn't even know any of these guys. So you're just getting to know them. At the same time, you're getting them used to you and getting them used to the camera, and hit record, and these things go on. So really what it was all about is just building trust, hanging out, getting to know these guys on a one-on-one level, hanging with them in their environments. I'd go to everywhere that they lived, and a lot of times we'd go out to dinner or we'd go out to lunch and hang out and go to the beach, do just different things, and you're just really just hanging, and then you start recording here and there. And a lot of magic happened, a lot of really amazing things. And I'm so grateful to all these men in this Gold Star family for allowing this, because it was just a perfect happening to help us to create something that I think tells this post-combat veteran story so eloquently and beautiful, because it's about the love. I mean, we share all of the challenges of the post-combat world, or post-service world, I'll say, because you don't have to go to combat to deal with a lot of these issues. But yes, we are educating on that, but the story at its core is about the love between the brothers and the mother and the family and the Gold Star family, that we just want to celebrate that love. You know, that is a human story. You know, it's not I think Billy said it's not a war story, it's a love story. And that's so true.
It's not a war movie, it's a love story.
There you go. It's not a war movie, it's a love story. So it's a beautiful thing, you know, and it's nice to hear, you know, Billy say something like that. It's like, oh, you get it. You know what I mean? You get what we're doing.
Right.
And then we can all just celebrate it together and be out there, you know, sharing on a show like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Oliver, you're sitting over there. Be quiet. Let me ask you a question. Standing on the outside in during all this, and maybe Andrew, you got some other input as well. But during all this filming, looking outside in, there was some very tough scenes in there, right? There was, I can't remember names very well, but there was an apartment where one of the guys went and checked on him, and he's basically living in his own filth, right? Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time that y'all wanted to step in and help these guys and do something for them, but then you're like, that's going to affect the story that we're trying to show here?
All right. Well, good question. Well, I guess kind of in the stepping in and the story piece of it, and it's a better question for Andrew, but I guess kind of answering that in a general sense of just the feedback I've gotten is, you know, I think as part of the filmmakers for this film, I guess kind of our role to play is bringing that awareness to a lot of people. You know, I say all the time, I think one thing that someone who's not in the military, who's never served, maybe a family or friends, who's just a normal civilian, I think watching this film can transition you from someone who might know what's going on, know that, the veteran community has certain issues or problems, to kind of understanding. And definitely the scene which you're referring to with Ty, I think that really kind of goes along lines of, okay, I can kind of understand, a lot of what led to his situation, right? Because, wars, no, war is not a simple, easy thing, right? And neither is coming back. And, I guess kind of some debates we had on the filmmaking side is, we're jumping back and forth, right? The JV's video to kind of modern day time. And we don't even mention it, but, like COVID happened right in the middle of all that. I mean, you can see it with the masses kind of inferred with a little bit of the dates, but, that basically kept everybody indoors. It kept a lot of support systems closed off. And, and kind of the thing I talk about with a lot of people is like, uh, I feel for Ty, and it's rough, but I've got personal friends and things. It's not just Ty's home. It's like that, right? It's a much bigger problem than just like kind of this individual unit. So yeah, that'd be kind of my answer to that. Is I feel like our role in this is to bring this issue to a much larger audience and kind of bring it in the public zeitgeist so we can start have this conversation and remove the stigma and get our politicians to do something about it.
Yeah.
I'll answer that question, Josh. So in terms of stepping in with this, as filmmakers, we're filmmakers. That's the role. That's what we're there to do. There's no question about what we're there for. We're there to tell this story, and we have to respect what we're doing. And when we want to step in, and in fact we did in that moment. So I'm there with Angel, and we both very much care about Ty. Angel's known him for a lot longer. Just one of his best friends, and I just met him through the project. And so, we're trying, I'm observing at first, right? If someone is in desperate need of help, we have to step in, of course, right? In humanity, we have to take care of somebody. But if somebody doesn't want help, and you try to help them and they don't want help, then they're an adult, and we have to do the best that we can to allow them the agency that they want to have, right? They're in charge of themselves. They have a support network. They have, they're in a different community. They're all the way across the country, and there's only so much that we can do. So without going into too many details, we try to provide as much help as we can, especially I know like Angel, as you see him in the film, he's doing a lot of reaching out. Billy, these guys are getting together on a regular basis. They talk on, FaceTime, they talk on Facebook, they phone call each other, they text each other, and everyone's doing their best to look out, for each other. And so we do try to help. And at the same time, we're observers. And as long as somebody's not in a life or death situation, or they're going to hurt themselves, or they're going to hurt somebody else, or they're in danger, we're just observing, try to provide the best resources that we can, the best help that we can, and then do what we can and continue to follow up. So it's not just like we provide help, we provide the best that we can. We ask somebody if we can help them more. We can only give them so much. Continue to check up on them afterwards. Their brothers are continuing to check up with her. Everybody's still in connection to this day. And then whenever someone is, ready to meet halfway or whatever it's going to take, and that's what we're trying to show. We're trying to show the outreach. We're trying to show that there is help out there if you want that help.
Right.
But in terms of stepping in, it's a really delicate balance, and there's ethical things that there's ethical conduct, both in, being able to help somebody on a medical side, and then there's ethical content in this world that we work in, which is, documentary filmmaking. So we have to do the best that we can with our knowledge and limited resources, and to just provide, what we can in the moment. And the bigger question is, when we have this footage, when we're showing certain things, that's where the decision to what do we show, what can we show, how do we show this, how do we preserve somebody's dignity, how do we make sure that somebody is not in trouble because they said something or showed something, or anything along those lines. It's just it's a delicate thing. We have to make the best decisions we can. We have to look to our mentors and different people who've gone through similar things, as well as different agencies, to help us with making the best decision. So I know that was kind of a long answer, but nonetheless, it's a challenge, and we wish the best for everybody, and ultimately we're trying to show, as Oliver said, the reality. Right? Billy once told me we're showing the full breadth. We're showing the entire experience, whether you're having an experience of one person. I mean, I talk to veterans every single day that say, I was that guy. I was also that guy. And I knew this guy, and so it's the experience that everybody has, and we're just trying to show the whole picture, and let these people, like Oliver said, politicians and people who make decisions, to see this and hopefully be emotionally moved. If they care enough about veterans, we're trying to show without any filters the rawness of what happens and what could turn into a life or death situation eventually. If you don't do something about this, because it's not like it's just one guy is going through this thing. Like everybody says, that was me. I was that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we had another question come in, and speaking of experiences, this one is for Billy. Billy, in the documentary, you clearly were not a fan of the VA. And with the recent San Antonio VA being in the news for having 2 suicides at their doors in the last 8 months, how did the VA fail you and your friends, and what can they do better so that they're not failing our other veterans?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I will say this, the VA is getting better. You know what I'm saying? When I started getting help, was it 15 years ago kind of deal? It was kind of more of a mess. And then again, I was a mess, and I wasn't, I don't feel I was in a position, like most veterans, we cop out and like, hey, you don't know what I'm going through and blah, 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 blah. And when we fight with the psychiatrist, and then it's kind of like, fuck this place, they don't get me. And a lot of it is our own rebellious nature to not accept help kind of deal. So until I was looking for help for real on some things and held myself accountable, did I ever get any better kind of deal. So I can't put all the blame on the VA, but yeah, they did kind of, whatchamacallit, when they started believing me, that's one thing. They kind of, you come to the VA telling your story, and they look at you like you're talking shit, like you're looking for a handout, or, because there is monetary gain, with the disabilities and stuff like that, But, they kind of, treated me like I was talking shit. And I was like, you know what, I don't have to like belittle myself to these people, kind of deal. So that was kind of my problem. I probably would have got help a lot faster if I was more open to it. So it's 2 things. But at the time, the Miami VA was really, really bad, and they kind of like had their issues, and they cleaned house and they did their thing. So they are getting better. And I can say I've gotten a lot of help. I got recently I admitted myself, was it like 3 years ago, to inpatient, did my little 3-month program kind of deal. And the world of good, I would say to any veteran that like, hey, you feeling like you're going through some rough patch kind of deals, like give yourself the vacation, Go check yourself in, it's in 10 seconds of being in a moment of your heat or craziness, you do something stupid, so it's kind of like before you do something stupid, check yourself into the VA. They're not that bad, and now it's not medication, going into other avenues. I do art therapy now, for a while I was trying to learn the piano. They had music therapy, and a lot of it's outlets on how to express yourself, because, we sometimes have a hard time expressing ourselves. So, and something to do, something purposeful. I think that's what drowns a lot of veterans. You get out, and what reaches the accolades of what you used to do, what seems purposeful to yourself, and it's just this emptiness kind of deal. So I feel the VA, though, they did over-medicate me at one time. They had me on like 7 medications kind of deal. I kept looking for therapy. I'm like, look, I want a cognitive therapy, the real deal. And they're like, we can't give you that because you're a fucking pothead and you fucking drink a lot. And I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? It's better than taking medication. I tell you what, they had me zombied out. I couldn't form a thought in my head. I couldn't talk, I was talking to somebody and I'd halfway through get frustrated because I can't even think, So it's kind of like sedating veterans isn't a way neither. Sometimes you need it though. So it's kind of like this guy's thing.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's getting better. Or it was,
Yeah, I hear you. You know, especially with being able the VA sending out to that outpatient care, right? You can go to see the doctors now within your community. You don't have to go directly through the VA. So I think that's definitely a big help for them. So let me ask you a follow up. You said you checked yourself into rehab. Is that because you hit something in your own personal life, or did this documentary help with that? Like seeing yourself on film? What led you to wanting to get help and get better?
Oh, what was going on with me is I had a lot of other things going on in my life. Like my brother almost died, and then we just got custody of one of my nephews who was going through a lot of things. Like he was just being abused as a child, and it's all the fighting in the house. And for me, I go kill mode when I get around people fighting, and it's kind of living in a house with people fighting, just kind of, I was also working as a bouncer, which is an also kind of aggressive job. And I was getting in a fight, like 2 fights a day kind of deal. And I'm Mr. Cool Guy, so even my people were like, "Oh, Billy, what's going on with you, man?" And it's just like, I don't know how to deal, and it's like, fuck it, you just quick snap, no tolerance for bullshit, no patience. And I feel like a lot of veterans, dealing with their own shit, get overwhelmed sometimes with like real life. Like a lot of our guys, they're going through marital problems or embarrassing themselves in front of their kids, or, they're going through their own drug issues. And, it kind of escalates to what it escalates to.
Right. All right. Let's see. We have another question. When you first envisioned making American Sons, did you have a way? Did you see it turning out a certain way, and then by the time you were done, it was completely different, or was it the same from beginning to end when you envisioned this?
Well, I wouldn't say like that there was this vision that was exactly how it turned out, but I would say pretty close. I mean, we knew that the footage was just really something special. The footage from JV, also the photo. There was also a photo set from Scott Olson, who's in the film. He's a combat photographer, also a Marine who was with the unit, and he was capturing photos of them and a lot of photos of JV the day before, the day during, and the day after he died. So he really captured this really core moment of what the Indy Battery had went through when they were in Afghanistan, because several guys were blown up at that time, and this photographer happened to be there during a big a key moment in that experience. And so I saw these assets, I saw these photos, I saw the video. I was just absolutely blown away when I witnessed that, because I knew it was special. I knew it was something unique, and so we knew that JV was always going to be the core of the film, his experience, and finding a way to thread him through the project was paramount to us from the very beginning. Now, during the process, we don't really know what's going to happen, right? We know that it's going to be a modern day film that kind of takes you back to the experience. You see what guys are going through, you see what they're going through today. We knew there was going to be this back and forth moment, but you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know that these things that you experience, like it just so happens we followed Billy and Ty and Angel, and then there's this other guy Jonathan, and everything was just a thread. So these guys all just kept appearing in the same key moments, like together. They just kept having the same key moments that were just, they would say things and do things that were just so incredible, and it just tied the story together. And so the story is just about these best friends who were in Afghanistan, and how they're dealing with the loss of their brother, and how they find that healing and the reconnection when they get together and the reunions. And so you have this very beautiful story, but then also we want to make sure that it's educational. We want to make sure that both the audiences who are watching it are understanding what veterans are going through, both when they've been to combat, but also at home, like the challenges that they're facing at home, have that empathy so that we can have a critical mass that's not just veterans who are asking for change. It's, all of us. It's all of us taxpayers who are asking for change and trying to make things happen. So there's that. But then there's also for the veterans to see themselves, to see a friend, somebody that reminds me of someone reminds them of someone they served with, and then to realize, hey, I need to reach out to that person, or maybe I'm the person who needs to be reached out to. Maybe I need to go check myself in, or find help, or reach out to a buddy and tell them what's going on with me. And so far, we've seen a lot of that happen. And so it's just, you never know exactly with a documentary like this. Like, it was about real life. It's not just a bunch of talking heads, and then we throw some B-rolls about an archival moment about some stuff that was captured, and we just throw it on top. We're just trying to be along with the experience, and I'm just grateful that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, and maybe this is more about post-film, kind of its distribution, but Andrew and I have had long hours, some nights talking about, how is this film going to be received and how can it be received? And I think one of the first questions I asked Andrew when I got involved in this project was, like, what is it that you want out of this? And he said something to the effect of, I don't want this just to be a movie that you see and you're like, well, that was good, and then you forget about it 3 weeks later. I said, I would love for some change to come out of it. And I said, okay, well, in especially with the VA, right, because it's a federal entity, I said, the only way to change that is through policy and advocacy, right? You have to get a change at the federal level. There's no going about it. So I said, and that's the world I did understand coming from where I was before joining the project. So I said, in my mind, there's two ways that you can create federal policy change, right? First way is the whole advocacy policy thing of making connections with your, local, your representatives, your senators, getting those kind of individuals to be aware of it, right? And that takes lobbying and partnerships and organizations that are in the space, right? Much like the VFW and anybody who has, the ability to get the attention of those kind of people. And then I said the second way is public pressure. If you get enough eyeballs on it, enough everyday American citizens, let's say, there's almost 400 million of us, right? If you get 15 million, 10 million that are very loud about this film and write to their representatives and say, hey, we want you to speak about this issue. We want you to focus on it. We want you to be educated on it. And this is something that's affecting our communities across the country. In my mind, those are the two ways to really create change out of it. So we've been very, very thoughtful in going forward and how we're planning things. And, and we also had to provide a movie that was going to do that, right? So not something that was just going to take one side and make it ammo for the other, or make it about some political thing. We don't want to, the focus was JV and the men of India Battery, right? And like Andrew said, the beauty is that you don't have to have been in a specific unit to see yourself in it, right? I'm a civilian and I see myself in some of these guys the way I have very, very close friends who I talk to. I'm like, man, even though none of us are combat vets, I'm like, man, I can understand how sometimes, people can get low, and it's taught me a lot as well. So I think it's a very good educational moment as well.
And Josh, I just want to say one thing before we move forward about the VA, because I know that there is a lot of VA talk, and there's some extreme challenges happening there. But the VA is not this like evil, terrible monster that's out there.
Right.
An outsider's look, having been in, and we did do interviews with the VA in Long Beach. It didn't make it into the film. And so I have experienced going, I went to some VA appointments with some of these guys. I've experienced it. My father's a vet. My grandfather's a vet. So I have some experience with the VA. I have friends who are executive level over there, doctors over there, have worked within the system. So I've seen a lot of things. And what I will say is that there are bigger powers at play in the medical industry that control a lot of our health in this country. And we have to get to the bottom of what's going on there. I'm not going to go deep. I think everybody knows what I'm saying here. But there are some very powerful players in the medical industry that are causing damage to the health of all Americans. And we really need to get to the bottom of that. Second thing I want to say is not all VAs are created equal. Some VAs are better than others. So I know vets who love their VA and they love their VA experience. And then I've seen vets and I've seen the VA, I've seen the two worlds of VAs, and they're drastically different. And then also it's bureaucracy. So you just have a giant government institution where people go there and they do a government job, which everybody knows what that's like, to do a government job. And it's just kind of like you're staying in the lane. Nobody's trying to be a squeaky wheel to make change. Everybody is just trying to do the best they can. There's good doctors that are trying to do the best that they can, and they might be limited. And then there's not great doctors, just like in every field. And then you have people who have really high-end jobs, and they might just care about the jobs that they have, and perform in a way of someone who just cares about keeping their status, just like in every other place. Unfortunately, when you deal with big bureaucratic institutions, it's really hard to get fired for bad performance or for not doing a great job. You just kind of stay in your role, right? You get shuffled around. It's like you just move, you can just move veterans around from place to place. You don't really have to be accountable for your actions a lot of times. Like veterans can show up in the front of the hospital and kill themselves, and no one has to be held accountable. In fact, it doesn't even hit the news. So there's just a lot of issues at play here. And so there's some. I just want to make sure to know that inside the VA there are good people in there, but the institution, the protocol, the way that they're going about things, and the pharmaceutical shroud that is over the top of it, whenever you're a company that does business with the government, there can be a lot of money that just gets exchanged from the private sector to the public sector. And so that's a big issue. And we, as all Americans, we need to somehow come together and do something about that. Because, on the back of the bottle of the pills, it says, may cause suicidal thoughts. So that should be a good, place to start right there,
Yeah. I'll say something as a veteran, with the whole VA thing, it's kind of like at the end of the day, we are veteran or not, we are accountable for our own mental health. I feel like as veterans, we kind of like, they're going to fix me, because that's kind of like the mentality you have. You got a problem, you go to BAS, or someone's going to fix your problem. When it's like an emotional thing and kind of deal, you're expecting them to wave a magic wand and kind of take your problems away, At the end of the day, it's like, it's not even up to the VA, it's just, you got to find it within yourself. A lot of guys going through a lot of stuff. It's kind of like, there's a lot of people trying to help them. I guarantee it, plenty of people, but it's kind of like one of those that, I kind of lost track of thought.
I do it all the time. Don't worry about it, brother. But, I don't really talk politics on this show, but I will say, with the rescheduling of the class of marijuana, right, that is going to make it a little bit easier for additional medication that is better suited than just some of these pills with the may cause suicidal tendencies, or may cause cancer, but it's going to fix that headache you got, right? So maybe that helps going forward as we talk about changes. But when we're talking about changes, what kind of changes are y'all hoping to see with this film coming out, with people seeing that we need this? Whether it's with policymakers or in the community, what type of changes do you want this documentary to do?
Well, what I would like, Josh, is for there to be a transition ramp, a ramp down. Because when I hear the guys or men and women who stayed in the military post-combat, they always talk about how, that was one of the best decisions they made. Because you're getting time to continue to still be around other veterans who understand what you're going through. You're within the system. You still have a protocol, right? So, like, part of what, from what I understand, just my experience with making this film and being around everybody, is that it's not just about you went to combat, you saw some terrible stuff, you did some terrible stuff, and now you just can't live with yourself. There's just a bunch of other things that happens if you're not prepared for, the adult life in a civilian world, that it can just be like a rude awakening, So just something as simple as having to be accountable for your own time to be somewhere. You've been in the military, you're told what time to be everywhere. You're
Right.
told. So there's this protocol that you're like, and that's also really good for mental health, right? Having protocol for your daily life, that's great for mental health. But if you're just like, you go through all this stuff, you're injured, you have moral injury, you have a head injury that may not even start showing itself for years later, and immediately they're asking you to take pills, and then they're like, oh, by the way, let us know if you need anything, you're on your own. Like, here's just enough money to maybe get by. You're going to have to figure out everything yourself. And now you like have no idea what that's like, because you just trained to be like this one job. You're like an elite level at this one thing. And now you go into a world where there's not like a job for that, for those skills that you have. You have these elite skills. You go into this world and you're not prepared for that. And so what I want to see is like, there's basic training, and then you get specialist training, right? And then you go to combat. And so you have all this training and investment into you. Well, where's the training and investment that goes into these individuals when they leave? Why aren't we training them to be amazing in the civilian world? We know they're leaders. We know that they're great at their job. We know that you can trust them, that they're solid, that they're loyal. They have all these great qualities. Why aren't we taking them and training them to be, amazing members of our society that they could be?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge failure. And that's what I would like to see happen, is investment in like legitimate training, not just like, here's some classroom stuff, or, here's a GI Bill, figure out how to use it on your own. No, it's like, these are the steps you're going to take when you leave here, and you're not even allowed to leave here until you acclimate to just being, back home, being around other vets, and then having that process together, so that when you exit, you feel prepared. You might already have a job that's suited for you. You're already working on your mental health. You're being put into a community where you're being trained up. I think someone I talked to recently was talking about, when you go to prison, even in prison, you go to a halfway house where you get to experience other prisoners are there, and you're around them. You know what they know what you've been through. You know what they're doing. You're all working together. You have group meetings. You got a sponsor who's working with you. That's one of those surprising things that you hear someone come up to you after a screening and tell you. It's like, wow, that's an amazing idea. So I feel like there's no new ideas that need to be created. All we need is from some people, with some real leadership to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when I went through TAP class back in 2011, it was 2 days of figure out how to write your resume, make sure you look good when you go to an interview, go to the Home Depot website, go to Lowe's website, they'll hire you. I couldn't get hired on at either one of those places. I came out, I did 8 years active Navy doing sonar on the newest sonar equipment the Navy had to offer. I figured I'm going to go into the oil and gas industry here in Texas, right? Sonar on ground is a little bit different than water, but it's basically the same thing. But no, it's you don't have the schooling or the technical knowledge of how to do the oil and gas. But it's, and Billy, I'm sure you saw the same thing, and it's that transition class is
McDonald's.
Yeah. And then they just kick you out. But you're right, Andrew. It's, even prisoners get a transition schooling, either halfway house or take classes. They end up with diplomas and stuff like that. But yeah, they definitely need a better transition program for our veterans. So coming up, we got a few minutes left. So let's talk about the future of American Sons, right? Y'all are coming out on PBS in January. Let's talk about that, or is there anywhere else that people can catch the film right now before then? What's going after that? So what's the future for y'all?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I'll take some breaking news here. It's a good place to kind of announce it. So right now we're actively building partnerships because, again, this film has to, in our minds, it has to reach a lot of people so they can kind of see this beautiful story and, you know, be educated, and it's part of the plan. So, you know, part of the screening that we've done for the past few days with the VFW Texas group, and thank you to everyone who's watching now who's seen it, was really kind of a test bed for us, that we're able to partner with, you know, organizations at the ground level who can want to host screenings and, you know, have some toolkits and some workshops about educating the community and kind of pulling resources together. So we have just kind of, the ink is still needs to dry, but we partnered with a foundation that's does really amazing work. They're called the Fort Worth Air Power Foundation. They're an amazing group. If you're in the area, I'm sure you know of them. And really working with them, because we told them and said, hey, we want to take this around Texas and then around the country to do community impact work, to do screenings. And the idea is to bring communities out. The guys is, the lift is, we're come to watch a movie. That's it. You know, it's not too heavy of a lift. And then while we're there, it's the ability for organizations like the VFW Wounded Warrior Project, all of these organizations that provide these resources, you know, to directly be there and impact the veteran community in their homes. You know, I say it all the time, but especially smaller nonprofits, they do great work, but they really struggle to kind of reach to their community and share all of the great work that they do and share their messaging. So that's kind of the plan with this, is going forward, this film can be a tool for organizations to utilize internally with their own team if they're a big enough company, or within their direct community, and start, you know, bringing awareness and impact in the fold.
Yeah. All right. Billy, what's your future look like?
I don't know.
What you got going on? You don't know? Living day to day, right?
I've been doing art. I like to do art. It's my new little passion. That's kind of my little jazz at the moment.
Well, Billy's been doing some traveling. You know, he's been traveling with us, and he's been making friends all over the country. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's, you know, we're having a good time, and we're out there spreading the message. You know, this next year, the year we just came from was all about awareness. You know, showing that the film did exist. And now, as Oliver said, we're partnering with key organizations to take the film across the country into veteran-centric populations, where we can do a small lift, like tell people to come watch a film. And that will bring veterans out of isolation. We've already seen it happen, and they can engage with other veterans, make new friends, get inspired by the story that we're telling, and then be able to connect with our partners who are providing resources within their communities. So it's just a way to, like I said, bring veterans out from isolation, and also Gold Star families, so we can honor them and praise them, and to also give them this healing moment together. And I see that happening so much when just veterans can all come together in a community. And it is a healing moment to see everybody have this experience together and be inspired. You know, there's been so much inspiration where people come up to me, and the last thing they say, I'm going to call so-and-so. I'm going to call them tonight, you know. And that part makes me feel really good, because that's what we're trying to do. It's just inspiration. Like, you know, as Billy said, you got to take care of yourself. You know, there are resources, there are places to go, but ultimately you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your tribe, your family, and you got to be the one to be courageous and reach out, you know. And so that's what we're trying to do, is inspiring that encourage, and to show that brotherhood, that the Marine brotherhood is alive and well, you know, the military, you know, brotherhood, sisterhood, that's all alive and well. And we're a big community of Americans, and we want to still come together and honor our veterans.
Yeah.
I will say the documentary has brought even just the guys in our unit together. You know, people from out of nowhere. You know, now it's like haven't seen Eckert in forever, and now it's like we're on like a text thing kind of deal. You know, it's kind of like tired, like kind of keeping contact. I mean, it's kind of hard, but you know, it's kind of it's motivated to, you know, reach out and talk to somebody for real, because it does a huge impact to do so. And it's kind of like you don't even know, because, you know, it's kind of like you're going through your own shit, and it's kind of like, you know, you forget, you know, where you know, all that, but, you know, it's still very much alive. And, you know, it is miracles what you could do with just a phone call.
Absolutely. All right. Well, coming to the end of the show, I run all my guests through a 2-minute time drill at the end, just to give you 2 minutes to speak your mind, speak your heart, put whatever out there to the world, to the veterans, whatever you want to get off of your chest for people to hear. So, Oliver, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, to every person who served, thank you for your sacrifice. You know, whether it was combat or not. I mean, you signed on the dotted line and you know, basically signed away your freedom to help protect mine and a lot of people around here. And you know, there's a lot of us that are very thankful for that. Don't listen to the news. You know, it is it's not an accurate portrayal. There are a lot of people who still very much appreciate the sacrifice that the men and women have done and are currently doing. Please, you know, go watch the film, go tell someone about it. Again, call someone that, you know, you've served with or someone that you're thinking about. Like, you don't even need to be a veteran. Call someone you haven't called in a while and just see how they're doing. You know, I think we have a very, very good opportunity to, you know, bring a lot of people together. This is a very American film. It's in the name. And, you know, I think that this issue is going to, you know, is going to resonate with a lot of individuals. So follow us along on our journey. And, you know, thank you for all the support.
All right. Thank you, Oliver. All right. How about our famous director here, our upcoming award-winning director?
Well, foremost, I just want to give gratitude to J.B. Villarreal for his courage and bravery and everything that he's done in bringing all of these people together, because we're all united now because of him. And to the Villarreal family, Gold Star family, for everything that they've done in allowing us into their world, and to all the men of India Battery who were, you know, courageous enough to be vulnerable so that they can pave the way for other veterans to know that, you know, it's okay to show what's going on with you. You know, it's okay to show the reality of what you're experiencing so that you can inspire others to do the same, you know, so that people can open up. You know, a lot of times families, you know, they're not working out because someone's not opening up, they're not sharing, and it causes a lot of anxiety within the family. So that's something that I want to inspire through this project. And if you want to, if you're a serviceman or woman and you want to be able to show others what you've gone through, but you feel like you can't, show them this movie, because they'll understand, they'll see you in a different light, and that, I promise, that will open up some new lines of communication, an understanding. They'll look at you different. They'll give you a different level of empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, which is what you want. And just, if you like documentaries, watch American Sons. We're very proud of it. We worked very hard on this. It was very challenging to create. And so we just invite everybody to watch the film. PBS, January the 12th. That'll be a national broadcast. You can see it there, or you can catch us on one of our road shows. Go to AmericanSonsFilm.com, and we hope to see you out and come up and talk to us.
All right. Thanks a lot, Andrew. All right, Billy, it's all you, brother.
All righty. Well, I start off by thanking all the movie guys, you know, for putting my, you know, immortalizing my friend and finishing his movie, because, you know, it kind of like, that was his dream to, like, you know, put his stuff out there, you know, so kudos to them to, like, you know, putting it together, because that was a long process, you know, and thanks to them for, you know, putting in the money, taking the time, and putting the effort. What I would say to all veterans is, you know, love yourself, you know, at the end of the day, that's who you have. And in 10 seconds in the heat, bro, you could do something stupid. So it's kind of like in 10 days, your whole life can change, you know? So it's one of those things, you know, not on the medication or none of that crazy stuff, but, you know, love yourself, look for help, be open to the love people are trying to give y'all. Yeah, and you don't need an army or whatever. You just need one friend. So at least find, you know, one friend that you can at least talk with.
Yes, sir. All right, I appreciate you, man. Stay safe out there.
Rock on, dude.
All right, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Full Speed Ahead After Battle on Military Broadcast Radio, where we give voice to the veterans. As you heard from the guys just now, American Sons is a documentary that is not a you need to see it. It is a you have to see it. As I said at the beginning of the show, this is probably one of the hardest hitting, real, true documentaries that you could probably see in this lifetime about what our current veterans are going through, both in battle and afterwards, when it comes to VA systems, mental health, suicide awareness, all those types of things. This documentary kind of covers all that. It covers a support system, which everybody needs to have, right? If you were once a warrior, you're still a warrior, okay? And you didn't fight that battle alone. You fought it with other guys and girls next to you. You still have those people next to you. You still have your family next to you. You're not in this battle alone. So make sure you ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Reach out. And if you want to set up a time to maybe do a virtual screening of this with you and your company, your organization, something like that, reach out to one of the producers, director, or myself. I'll get you in touch, and we'll see if we can get that set up for you. But we are going to call it an evening. We got next week's guest coming up. It's going to be another great show. But as we wrap up tonight, remember this: nobody gets through life alone. Reaching out isn't weakness. It's how we stay grounded, connected, and alive. If you're struggling, talk to someone you trust. If you're carrying too much, let someone help you shoulder it. You matter, and you're not walking this path by yourself. Until next time, keep moving forward, full speed ahead. Dismissed.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.